Hi, I'm Nathan and welcome to Ninja Monkey. I'm currently focusing on what's going on behind Japan's closed borders. My aim in this video is to put all the readily available information into one place to make it easy for you, potential tourists, students, business people and anyone interested in Japan to follow what's happening. Hopefully my updates will help you make informed decisions leading to answering the question, when will Japan's border reopen? Due to prior commitments, I'm actually bringing this one a little earlier as I really wanted to keep you updated. We will as always look into the situation in Tokyo and nationwide and keep tabs on how the vaccine drive is progressing. I will also look into some of this week's top stories that might be of interest and might bring insights into what the future has in store for us. So let's get started with the situation in Tokyo and nationwide. As always, I continue to present on screen some important stats for you, including nationwide cases, Tokyo's numbers and the amount of PCR tests done nationwide. So feel free to pause the video if you want to. All stats are up to the latest government officially available data up to and including the 16th of September. Tokyo reported 831 new cases on Thursday. This is actually the 25th day in a row that cases continue to drop. And for context, this figure was down by 844 from last week. However, it is important to note that there were 24 new deaths reported among the infected patients. The 7-day average of the new daily cases is 1,011.4 compared to 1,837.1 a week ago. And the number of patients that were in a severe condition under the government's criteria fell by 16 from the previous day to 182. In comparison, nationwide, 6,806 new cases were confirmed on Wednesday, and the number of patients with severe symptoms fell by 71 from Tuesday to 1,834, slipping below the 1,900 mark for the first time since August 22nd. Team, it is good to see numbers on a downward trend. Numbers dropping for the 25th day in a row is a very promising sign, and the fact that patients with severe conditions are also falling means continued good news and will hopefully result in the state of emergency being lifted and not extended for much longer anyway. Although this is good news, there is much more that I will discuss regarding this later on in the video. I continue to believe that keeping an eye on both the situation regarding hospitalizations and cases and also how the vaccine drive is progressing is very important. So let's follow on and see how things are progressing in regards to the vaccine drive in Japan. As of the latest officially available information from the 16th of September, there have now been a total of 148,775,011 doses administered. That's actually 8,479,228 more than last week's update and includes first and second doses. So that we can fully understand where these doses are actually going, let's break down this figure even further. 82,148,564 make up people who have only had one dose, and 66,626,447 make up those who have received both jabs and would therefore be considered fully vaccinated. This means that out of the population of around 126 million people, 64.9% have now received one dose of the vaccine, and 52.6% have received both doses of the vaccine. And for further clarity regarding the elderly, which are usually considered the most vulnerable group and make up people 65 years of age and older, 88.3% of those wishing to take the vaccine are now inoculated with both doses too. I continue to think that hitting the magic number of around 70% of the population receiving both doses will serve as a turning point in many aspects. And at the current rate, I think that this should occur in around a month's time. The last update was quite a major one. The Japanese government mentioned some of the steps that need to happen to make sure that the state of emergency is lifted, and that once the state of emergency is lifted, then a review into opening up foreign visitors would occur. To summarize, hospital beds would need to fall below 50%, the number of patients with severe to moderate symptoms would also need to show a downward trend, and additionally, the number of patients recovering at home or waiting to be hospitalized will also need to be lower than 60 people per 100,000 residents in major cities. We should also remember that these guidelines should be treated as flexible benchmarks rather than a strict set of criteria, as things can actually change. And with the state of emergency extended until the end of September, we will need to continue keeping a close eye on these new benchmarks to see if indeed it will be lifted or extended once again. As mentioned earlier in the video, these are all dropping and looking promising. For reference, only a few weeks ago in late August, around 70% of the hospital beds were occupied in central Tokyo for severe patients. As a result, it is projected that the central government will increase the total number of beds to 6,651 by the end of September, with the target being 7,000 overall. And to have a clear picture of how things are progressing in this area, as of this update, there are 2,879 hospitalizations, out of which 182 are deemed severe cases. There are 6,583 beds secured for patients, out of which 503 are beds for patients with severe symptoms, and 1,445 patients are awaiting to be hospitalized at home. Another positive note is that Japan's top COVID advisor Shigeru Omi said on Thursday that the peak of the 5th coronavirus wave is mostly over. But he cautioned that easing anti-pandemic restrictions on people's lives could lead to a 6th wave of infections, especially with colder weather approaching. We should be aware that the number of hospital beds for COVID-19 patients will not increase 5 to 6-fold all at once, Omi said. Omi also said in a closing examination of the House of Representatives Welfare and Labour Committee on the 15th, even if you try hard to vaccinate, you will immediately suppress this disease and reduce it to zero. I can't do that, he said, adding that it will take a couple of years plus for the duration of the fight against corona, and said that it will continue for the foreseeable future. When asked about the future outlook, Mr. Omi said, "For the time being, we need to continue fighting the virus. To be precise, only God knows. But if vaccines and drugs feel like the flu that is everywhere, the anxiety of society will disappear. It will take a couple of years plus." Some viewers have brought this article to my attention, with some viewers worried that Japan will remain closed for a couple of years plus. However, the way that I interpret this is that the fight will continue for a few years to come. As we learn to live with the virus, so will society, and Japan as a nation will adapt. And this is already happening. Anyway, overall, I think it's looking rather promising in my opinion. What do you think, team? I'd love to know your thoughts on this. In vaccine passport news, according to a Mainichi article, the government will experiment with the easing of restrictions in selected areas in October to see if proof of vaccination or negative COVID-19 test results required for entry can be checked smoothly, government sources said. Hopefully this will run smoothly and will be rolled out quickly so that things can start opening up in this regard too. Reports state that Qantas Airlines has announced a date as to when international flights will resume to popular destinations like the UK, North America and parts of Asia from December the 18th onward. A spokesman for the Australian airline confirmed the news, saying that it had scheduled flights on certain routes to London, Los Angeles, Vancouver and Singapore, and that flights have also been scheduled to fly from Australia to Tokyo and Fiji from December the 19th. This is certainly quite an interesting development and date. It falls in line with Japan having completed the vaccine strategy, and by this date the state of emergency should hopefully be lifted. However, more updates are needed in regards to how tourism will work. Currently, it is expected that quarantine will be reduced to 10 days, but I personally have a gut feeling that this will be reduced even further once the vaccination drive is complete, but might be dependent on your country's situation too. I want to finish off with a petition that a viewer has brought to light. Yogi-san is an Indian assemblyman in Japan and president of All Japan Association of Indians. 3,000 signatures are needed before it will be submitted to the government. The petition calls for relaxation of entry into Japan, especially for students, business workers, permanent residents, highly skilled professionals, educators, engineers, skilled technicians, researchers, students and their families, including same-sex partners. I will be leaving a link in the video description so that you can do your own reading and decide if you want to support it. So what do you think, team? I'd love to get your feedback on any of today's stories. If you feel that there's an important story or information that you'd like me to look into or share with viewers, please contact me via Instagram, Twitter, or any other social platform. And I'm going to ask for your help too. If you have a skill and you're willing to help me out, perhaps with design, logos, etc., then I really want to better this channel, so get in contact with me. As always, thank you so much for watching this far and staying tuned. It must mean that you are liking the content so far, so please consider liking, subscribing if you haven't already, and hitting the bell notification to keep up to date with all future updates. I look forward to interacting with you in the comment section, and if you don't have much to say, then just say hello and where you're from. So that's the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. Till next time, stay positive, team. Arigatou gozaimasu. Thanks. Bye.